Hi, I want to share with you another case study. In this case, it's Emerald Lawn Care. This is a couple, Joel and Brenda, that I worked with, and Joel had always wanted to be his own boss. And I mean, he's a bigger than life guy. He's big as a house, and his shoulders are wide enough to block out the sun. I mean, um, but he's one of these guys whose heart is even bigger, and he is just one of the friendliest, warmest, most genuine people that I've ever met, and I instantly fell into deep and abiding like of this guy. And the other thing that's great about Joel is he's a crazy. I mean, you want to talk about glass half full? He says no. Let's go fill up three more glasses, and he's that kind of a guy. And you can see he's like a little kid with his eyes twinkling all the time. And if Joel is a kite, well, Brenda is the kite string. Brenda was his wife, and she was the one who kind of kept things rolling because he's out there in La La Land half the time, um, which is a great thing because he's a dreamer. But she's the one who said, "Well, you gotta have socks, and you probably ought to have put on shoes here, Joel." And so she was sort of the rudder. If he was the wind in the sails, she was the rudder in the relationship. And Brenda's a absolutely gorgeous, lovely woman. Uh, and it was on her shoulders to make sure that little things happen, like the bills got paid and things like that, because Joel's busy. The problem was that the business was really struggling, and it was going through some major problems, and really they were having issues because nothing puts strain on a marriage like business and money problems at the same time. I mean, they go hand in hand. Money was it. There was no money. And then Brenda started talking about, how they might lose their house that they had just bought. They were so proud of that. And then Joel confided in me that he felt like, yeah, he couldn't provide for his family, and that he felt horrible. Unfortunately, that was the beginning, and they were so out of control. I remember sitting down and finding out that they had $78,000 less in the bank account than they had expected. I mean, you want to talk about cutting the heart out of you right there. His management systems, because he had all of these employees and all this equipment, but he was so out of control. I mean, especially because the business was growing. Uh, it was almost as if the growth was what was killing him, and he couldn't sleep, he couldn't think. I mean, he was just on the verge of a complete meltdown. And it was really hard to get him to stay focused at first. And the simple fact of the matter is, he was growing so fast that it was out of control. And just like uh, in the body, when we have growth that's out of control, we have a name for it. It's called cancer. And same thing in business, except it happens a lot faster usually. And so Joel was a victim of his own success. And so they hired me, really, honestly, if we're all honest, it's as an act of desperation. But the one thing that they had going for them is that Joel was an optimist, and he was willing to try new things, and was willing to take advice, and that the core of their business was a profitable concern. I mean, the core model worked. And so it was my job to help them tear off all of this growth that had kind of been slapdash on. And then we wanted to rebuild it the right way. And I'll tell you what, it wasn't always easy. But it was actually quite amazing how quickly that transformation happened. And that it wasn't me, it was Joel who made that happen, because he was always willing to make a decision and take action. And then if that action didn't produce the results that he wanted, he was instantly willing to make a new decision and take new action. And that, frankly, is what, that's the magic. Because if he hadn't done that, it wouldn't matter what anybody had told him about advice or this or that. But that was the key element to his success. Within just a few months, Joel had more than doubled his personal income, which was a great relief to Brenda, of course, because then, the house wasn't being, they weren't missing or threatening to miss house payments and things like that. The electrical payment was always on time. But also, he reduced his debt load enormously, and so that freed up, obviously, first off, it got him in good stead with the banks, but then it also allowed him to get more control over what was going on and control his cash flow. His customers were happier because he was more consistent and things were smoothing out on the operational end, and they were delighted to give him business and referrals that he'd never been able to get. And his business still kept expanding, even with the tear down and the rebuild, by over 80%. But it happened the right way. Seeing his bankers and his vendors weren't just calling up and saying, "Hey, give me a check." They were actually eager to do business with him because they saw that he was under control and he knew his numbers and the numbers made sense. See, I mean, it's really easy to blame the banker. Well, they don't want to loan me money. Well, you know what? For most entrepreneurs, I wouldn't want to loan them money either because they're out of control. Brenda was, the transformation that I saw in her was absolutely amazing. Because, you could see that she was really drawn down when we first met. I mean, very pretty woman, but you could see it was really eating at her. And so when all of this was going on, you could just see her come back to life. It was beautiful. And they were able to actually take a vacation, which was cool. And she they ended up having a baby. Their relationship was much, much stronger because they learned to communicate in this process and appreciate the differences that ways that they had never done before. What was really cool is as Brenda, you could see the life come back to her. Joel, all of a sudden, it was like he grew 2 inches, and you could just see him spark back up. It was an absolute honor to be part of that process. In his own words, thanks to Eric, we're now run our business instead of it running us. And I can't think of a better way to put it. And Joel is, to this day, a fast friend, and I really am appreciative for the opportunity to be of service to them.